Masechet Megillah Daf Kaftet Amud Aleph 29a1. We're just going to start on Kafchet Amud Bet on the bottom, the last word, where it says Tanu Rabbanan. We learned in the Braita. Okay? We learned this actually in the beginning, if you remember, the Masechet. Right in Daf Gimel. You're allowed to be Mevatel Talmud Torah to do Hotzat Hamet and for Hachnasat Kala. Okay, that's what we said in the beginning. If you remember the beginning of the Gemara, it was talking about the entire concept of when are you allowed to be Mevatel Talmud Torah or not in order to be Mevatel for the Megillah. So then it says, Amru alav Rabbi Yehuda beRabbi Ilai, the son of Rabbi Yehuda beRabbi Ilai, Shayam Mevatel Talmud Torah leHotzat Hamet uLhachnasat Kala, that he was Mevatel Torah, Talmud Torah for Hotzat Hamet uLhachnasat Kala. But when we mean one of these words, if he doesn't have all his necessities, but if he has all his necessities, and mevatlin, they're not going to be mevatel Talmud Torah for the person. How much is the necessities? Right, 12,000 people. 12,000 people. Yeah? Veshita alfe shipur and 6,000, which are tokim the shofar. Okay? And some people say, so basically, is it 12 plus 6, which is 18,000? Or is it 12,000? And of those 12,000, 6,000 are the ones which are blowing the shofar. Okay, so basically that's the question. Okay, but whichever one it is, when you're talking about 12,000 or 18,000 people, you understand that's a big big
it's people doing the same thing.
No, it's not. It's for everyone. This is for any single person. They're doing this. So imagine. Okay, fine. Ula says, Kegon de Chaitze Gavre Me'abula Tzichra. So you have a mechitza of people from the gates of the city of Abula until the kever of Sichra. Okay, Abula until Sifra. Fine. Says the Gemara, Rav Sheshat Amar Rav Sheshat says, Kenetinata. The Torah was given in Har Sinai, Mount Sinai. How many people was there? Kach Netilata. Ma Netilata Shishim Ribo was 600,000. So to Netilata was Shishim Ribo. But who is this? Leman de Kari Vetani, somebody that was learning Torah and Mishnayot. Aval Leman de Matni, but the one that was teaching other people, let li shiura, there's no shiur. That means there's somebody's mamash teaching the Torah to the masses, there's no shiur. 600,000 was somebody that learned Torah, whether it's Chumash and Mishnayot, but somebody that teaches other people, there's no shiur. More than 600,000, you just continue going. Right? Imagine how many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. Well, no, this is everyone together. Okay? Fine. Now the Gemara says, one second. I learned to write that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, look, come and see how Chavim is Israel in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? Why? Was any place where they were exiled, the Shekhinah was with them. So says the Gemara, any place where Bnei Israel went into Galut, right? Shekol makom shegalut Shekhinah mehen. The Shekhinah was always with them. Galut Mitzrayim Shekhinah mehen. When they were in Galut Mitzrayim, the Shekhinah was with them. Shneimar Hanigla Nigleti Avicha b'yotam min Mitzrayim. Galut Bavel again. Shekhinah was with them. Shneimar Le'manchem shilachti Bavel. Te'af keshen atidim nigael. The same lacha is going to apply when they are going to be also redeemed. Shekhinah, the Shekhinah imahen. The Shekhinah is going to be with them. Shneimar v'shav Hashem lokecha tshuvutecha v'eshiv. Right? It says v'eshiv lo ne'mar ela v'shav. What does it mean v'shav? V'shav is hu atzmo shav. He himself is coming back. It's not the eshiv. He's going to bring them back. V'eshiv is that he's bringing them back. The shav is even he himself is coming back. And Lamed Shakadosh Baruch Hu shav imahen mi ben hagoliyot. So that means he's returning between the goliyot as well. Okay. Bebavel. Hey, where was the Shekhinah in Bavel? Okay. Amar Abaye says v'veknishta deutzal. In two Bate Knesiot, in the Bate Knesset of Hutzal, okay, that's a certain place, and the Bate Knesset of Teshav Yativ Narda, which is that they traveled from Yerushalayim, they built it in Narda. But don't say both in both places. Sometimes here, sometimes there. But the Shekhinah is always there in Bavel. Okay? Amar Abaye says, Teitili. Remember, Teitili means Magyar Lischar. Sometimes we learned that people asked other people, how old are you? Why did you were zocher to old age in order that we could copy you? Sometimes tetili is somebody coming and saying, by the way, you should know, magia lischar ala davar hazeh. What is it exactly? Tetili, techimerachikna parsa, ailina umetzil nahata. he says that if I'm going to go to the Beit Knesiot, I would even if I'm going to go away, if I'm far away like a parsa, I would still go into these Beit Knesiot, which means the mamash, he's so far away, he would still go to this Beit Knesset. Why? Because, right, these were very important Beit Knesiot, so he would, even though he was very, very far away, he wasn't obligated to go there, he would still do it. What happened was they were in the Beit Knesset of Shaf Yativ Nada. All of a sudden the Shekhinah came and they heard like a rash, right? What happened? They got up and they left because they felt that the Shekhinah was coming, so they didn't, right? So they were coming, they were making him afraid. He says, meaning who's going to be pushed away? The aluv or the eno aluv? The Malachi Asharet, he says he's blind. So he has to stay in the Beit Knesset, right? Rav Sheshat was blind. So now to come and to force him to leave the synagogue was very difficult. He was blind. So therefore he says, Amar lehu, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, Malachi Asharet, Shavkuhu, leave him. Why? Because since he's blind, don't cause him problems that now he has to leave the synagogue. Okay? Then it says in the Gemara, let's do with the Kiddusha, the Beit Knesiot. Vayhi lahem lemikdash mi'at, Amar b'Yitzchak, elu Beit Knesiot v'Beit Midrashot shebeBavel. These are the Beit Knesset and Beit Midrashos of Bavel. By the way, this is where the Khatam Sofer is, where he says that all the Beit Knesiot in the future are going to come and they're going to go back. That's what it says over here. Shikvenu be'Yisrael. We're going to see it in 1 minute. Okay, about going to Eretz Yisrael. We're going to see it. This is the Gemara, the Daf. Rabbi Elazar, right? Rabbi Elazar says this is a Beit Midrash of Rabbeinu, of Rebbe in Bavel, of Rav in Bavel. Okay, and that Ashav Rava comes and he says, "My dichtiv." What does it mean in the pasuk Hashem Ma'on? Atayita lanu, right? When it says Hashem Ma'on atayita lanu bedor vador beterem elu batei knesset v'atem nirashot, which means that these are the places that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's living by them. That is where he lives. Abai says, "Meneshav Gerisa bebeita." At the beginning, I used to learn at home. Matzilim veklisha. Then I used to pray in the Beit Knesset. Once I heard that the David Melech says, "Hashem ahavti ma'on betecha." Then I also used to learn in the Beit Knesset. So that way I could learn and pray in the same place. So he used to learn in the Beit Knesset as well. Tanya, we learned to the right. Rabbi Elazar Kapar, Omer, Rabbi Elazar Kapar says, "Atidim v'Beit Knesset v'Bavel shikvenu b'Eretz Yisrael." All the Beit Knesset v'Beit Midrashot in Bavel are going to go to Israel in the future. Shneimar ki ketavor be'arim u'Karmel b'yam yavo. Right? Halot dvarim kavachomer. Ma tavor is Karmel shelo ba'u lefi sha'ah. There, Har Tavor and Har Karmel, they only came just for the Sha'ah, lilmod Torah, just to learn Torah. Nikvaim b'Eretz Yisrael, they're going to be in Eretz Yisrael. That it's going to go in Eretz Yisrael. So they make a kavachomer from the different mountains during Matan Torah. It means during Matan Torah, Har Tavor and Har Karmel, they pass by in order to learn Torah. So same thing, if they're going to be in Eretz Yisrael because of that, kavachomer that we're being marbitz Torah all the time in the Beit Knesset or the Beit Midrash, that it's going to go into Eretz Yisrael. The Rash Bar Kapara comes and he was Doresh. My dichtiv, what does it mean in the pasuk? Lama tiratzedun arim gavnunim. This is the perek of Tehillim of Shavuot. Yatzavat kol ba'amru lahem lama tirtzu din im Sinai. Why do you want to make a din with Sinai? Right, to say that the Torah is going to be kulchem ba'alei mumim atatzrei. All of you are ba'alei gava by Sinai. Dichtiv acham b'zitzudin gavnunim. Dichtivatam b'zitzudin o giben odak, which means that the gavnunim in the mountains are ba'alei mumim. Giben odak is like a hunchback. So therefore, the giben is a balmum. So too, the Gavnunim is like a Balmum. Why? Because all of them are Baalim Mumim because they are not humble. So Amar Ravashi says, Ravashi Shumami, I will learn from here. Haiman Diahir, somebody that's mitgaeh, somebody that has haughtiness, Balmumu is considered a Balmum. Okay? Says the Gemara, Enosinoto Kapendaria, you're not going to make a Kapendaria, you're not allowed to make a shortcut out of the Knesset. My Kapendaria, Amarava Kapendaria Kishma, it's like its name. My Kishma, what does it mean its name? Commandament, just like the Commandament says, Ademakifna adare eul beha. Until I'm going to be makif, until I'm going to go around all the houses, I'm going to go here. So that's a kapen daria. Right? Lakif. Kapen, right? Is lakif dare ale. Right? I'm going to go through here. So that's a kapen daria. It's like an acronym. So Amar Rabbi Yavu says, Rabbi Yavu, imayashvil mi kara. However, though, if it was going to be a shvil at the beginning, before it became Bet Knesset, mutar, then it's mutar. Why? Because it was already a kapen daria before the Bet Knesset. Meaning, if the path preceded the synagogue, so then you're allowed to continue going through the path. But if the synagogue was made, you're not allowed to make it even a shortcut. And sometimes, by the way, this happens all the time. We had this question many times. It used to happen that we had a traffic light, right, in Toronto, and there was the entrance of the synagogue parking right on the right. a lot of people used to go into the synagogue parking, go all through it, go, and then they used to cut through the other day. It used to save like 2 or 3 minutes in traffic. So there's a whole question: is that making compensation? Because is the parking lot of the synagogue also like the synagogue or not? So there's a whole question about that. But you see that these sometimes you have these questions. And you think, you say, oh wow, it's a real question. Okay, so he says, but if you came into the synagogue not to make it into a compendaria, and then you're going, so now you're allowed to. For example, let's say you go into the Bet Knesset, you come in here, and you came in to learn. But 5 minutes later, you say, you know what? Instead of me going down the main door, I'm going to go down through the other door, and I'm going to go through Cafe Verde, so it's much quicker, right? I'm going to go through the other way. You're allowed to, because since you came in not on condition to make it into a shortcut, now that you're already inside, you can make it into a shortcut. Okay? Amar Rabbi Chalbo says Rabbi Chalbo. Amar Ravuna says Ravuna. Also, if you come in to pray, you can also make it in Commander. Since whenever you used to come in, you never used to go out the same door. That's the way it was in the Bet HaMikdash, in order that you never lose the respect. Because it's not that you're in and out. So if you come into one door, you go to another one. There was many doors. So because of that, you're able to make it into a shortcut as you came in to pray. Once you come in to pray, you can do whatever you want. If all of a sudden there's asabim growing, there's grass growing, you're not allowed to take it down. Why? Because of Ogman Nefesh. One second. You're not allowed to pluck it up and to give it to eat to your animals, but you're allowed to pluck it up and you're allowed to leave it there. So see, you're right. Our Mishnah was also talking about that you're plucking and you're giving it to your animal. Why? Because we wanted it to look bad in order that people would say, Ogman Nefesh, look, this Masechet Knesset was where my father prayed and my grandfather prayed, and look at this, and we have to make it nicer, and we have to bring it up again, and we have to build it again, we have to renovate it, and we have to. That's what they want. We learned to the right. You're not allowed to make in the Bet HaKvarot kalut rosh, which means you're not allowed to eat there, drink there, and cheshbonot. And you're not allowed to take animals there to feed. You're not allowed to put an amat mayim through it. You're not allowed to pluck asabim also. So if you did, you burn it in its place. Why? Because of the kavod hameti. So says the Gemara, what are we talking about? You're going to tell me now that it's talking about the sefer that if you plucked it, that you have to burn it, and that's because of kavod hametim. Right? My kavod hametim. If you're going to burn it in its place, what kavod hametim is there? So he says, really, we were talking about the Reisha, when we're talking about you're not allowed to be noheng b'hem kulat rosh. Therefore, it says, is why you're not allowed to be noheng b'hem kulat rosh? Because of kavod hametim. Mishnah on the bottom, Kaftet Amud Aleph, 29a on the bottom. Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechali B'Shabbat Korim Parashat Shekalim. Remember that when Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbat, you're going to read Parashat Shekalim on the same Shabbat. Then you're going to have 3 Sifrei Torah. Chal Yod B'Toch HaShabbat, if it's going to be in the middle of the week. Magdimin L'Shavar, so it's always a week beforehand. Mafsikin L'Shabbat Acheret, then there's going to be a pasek, the next Shabbat, because basically you have Adar, which is Shekalim, and then if it's going to be during the week, so the Shabbat before is Shabbat Shekalim. The next Shabbat is nothing. And then the Shabbat afterwards is going to be Shabbat Zachor, and then it's going to be Purim. B'Shniya is Zachor, in the second week it's going to be Zachor, okay? But Shlishit, in the third week it's going to be Paraduma, and in the fourth week, which is Para, in the fourth week it's going to be Achodesh Azalachem, Parashat Achodesh, which we just read in Parashat Bo. Achamishit on the fifth week, we go back to the normal Parashiyot. Lakol Mafsikin, to all of the Kriyat HaMoedim, we're going to stop. Right, which we're going to read the certain kriyot, and therefore we're going to make a sek from the normal parashat, meaning on Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, Purim, Tanit, Mamalot, Kippur, we always stop the regular parashiot, and we're going to read the parasha of that day. Says the Gemara, Tanan Hata, we learned over there in Mishnah and Shekalim, right, Be'echad, Be'adar, on the first day of Adar, Rosh Chodesh, Adar, Mashmini, Shekalim, we're going to mention about bringing the Shekalim for the Korbanot Tzibur. Right? Kaftet Amud Bet, yeah, 29b. Ve'ala kilayim, and also on kilayim, that they have to be careful how they're going to plant. They're not going to have any mixtures. Right? Bishlam ala kilayim, I understand kilayim is man zriyah, because it's time of zriyah, of planting. But ala shekalim minalan, how do we know now that ala shekalim we're going to come, we're going to start mentioning on Rosh Chodesh Adar? Amar B'Tev Yoshia, Damakrat says in Pasuk, Zot olat Chodesh v'chodsho. Amra Torah, Chadesh ve'avek korban mitubah chadasha. You have to actually come and bring from the new trumot. So since in Rosh Chodesh Nisan, you're going to come and you're going to bring from the Trumah Chadasha, so you're going to start already calling it out on the first of Adar, in order they should already bring the new Shekalim to the Bet HaMikdash, and therefore they're already going to have it ready. So Rosh Chodesh Nisan, they have all the new Shekalim. So Keman, who does this go like? Not like Rashbag. The local Rashbag Gamliel. The Rashbag, if it's going to be Rashbag Gamliel, Tamar Shte Shabbatot, it's already only 2 weeks. You don't need more than that. The Tanya was learned to the right. When do you start learning Ilchot Pesach? 30 days before Pesach, which is actually Adar, right? Which is when? Purim. Purim, you start learning Ilchot Pesach. So he says, but according to Rashbag, when do you do it? 2 weeks before Pesach. So it's Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So obviously our Gemara was not like our Mishnah was not like Rashbag, because he only says 2 weeks before. You don't need the month before. So says the Gemara, no, afilu tema Rashbag. If you're going to tell me some Shulchan Given that more sense, he says, once he says that they're going to be on the 15th of Adar, they're going to, the tables are going to be in the Medina and Yerushalayim, and then 25th they're going to be in the Bet HaMikdash. So because of the Shulchanot, they're going to already start mentioning beforehand in order that they should bring the Shekalim.
Why does it say 2 weeks? It's always
My parashat Shekalim. What is parashat Shekalim? Rav Amar Rav said, that's what we do. Right? We do kitisa. Again, remember, we're in the Gemara where the machlokot are, and then we're halakha masel. Halakha we do kitisa, but there's a machloket. That's why it's called parashat Shekalim. The kitiv Shekalim, it's written in Shekalim. But according to which is what we read on Rosh Chodesh, right on the top over there. So he says, why do you call it Shekalim? Is it written Shekalim there? And says, yes. Tamamai kid Rabbi Tavi, like Rabbi Tavi, right? Like Rabbi Tavi, what was brought before. That since they're bringing the korbanot on the 1st of Nisan, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, so therefore it's Zotolat Chodesh Bechodsho Lechodshe Shana. So therefore it's like Parashat Shekalim. Okay, it's good according to the Mandav Bnei Yisrael should dictate korbanot hatam kid Rabbi Tavi, but according to the Mandav Kitisa, korbanot miktiv is a written korbanot. Shekalim nadanim ktiv. They're shekalim, not for the korbanot. They're shekalim for the sockets. You know, they had sockets in the Mishkan. Sockets where they used to put in the walls into sockets. So for the shekalim was not for a korban. The shekalim were for sockets. It's not keshet. Ma'inyan shmita it's Har Sinai. And it's like, what's the connection between the shekalim for sockets and shekalim for korbanot? So it says the Gemara, then Rav Yosef shlosh trumot. There are actually 3 trumot, right? For machzit shekel. Amizbeach, lamizbeach, adanim, and bedek habayit, lebedek habayit. You always had for sacrifices, socket, and bedek habayit, which means there's upkeep. There's a building fund, and then there's upkeep. You know that if you only have a building fund and you don't have upkeep, it's very difficult. The building fund is the easiest fund to get. Why? Everyone wants their names. So to get your name on the thing, everyone will come. They'll put thousands and thousands. Why? They have a kever when they're alive still, right? So they have their names on there. You understand? So that, but the upkeep is the most important. Why? Because the upkeep is day to day. You need daily running expenses. If you're not going to come and you're not going to, fix whether it's leaks or there's that entire place is just going to fall apart. So they had a nice building, but then that's it. Okay. Right? Rosh Chodesh, that's why it's different. Kitisa, but it's different. This is Rosh Chodesh from all the Rosh Chodesh. But according to the Manam and Savik Lechmi, it's always the same. We're always reading that on Parashat on Rosh Chodesh. So answers the Gemara, Shane de Ilu Rosh Chodesh Karushita Binyan Yoma. On Rosh Chodesh, you're going to read 6 in the regular parasha and 1 in the parasha of Rosh Chodesh. Here, Kulu Rosh Chodesh. All of them are going to be reading. All the 7 are going to be reading in Rosh Chodesh. That's good. According to the Mandaman, Seder Parashiyot Uchozer. We go back to the Seder Parashiyot. But according to the Mandaman that says Seder Aftarot Uchozer, Uparashiyot Diomakkanin, and we always read the regular parasha. My shani, what's the difference? Which means like this. Here there was a machloket. When you stop, do you stop the regular parashiyot and you read only of Kippur, only of this or that? Or it was only the Aftarot that we were talking about? Because the parasha, you're always going to read the regular parasha of Shabbat. And you're always going to read so that's a machloket. So he says, Shane the Ilu Rosh Chodashim, Kadishita Binyan Yoma v'Kadit Rosh Chodesh. There you're going to read 6 Binyan Yoma and 1 in Rosh Chodesh. Now you're going to read 3 Binyan Yoma and 4 in Rosh Chodesh. So maybe we're going to ask the following question: Rosh Chodesh shechal liyot b'Shabbat. What means Rosh Chodesh falls on Shabbat? So we do Parashat Shekalim u'Maftirim b'Yoda Kohen. Mishlam al-Nomar Ma'ayin. It's on the Mandaman that says Kiti Sai u'Maftirim b'Yoda Kohen. The Dami labels it's dometo. The Chtiv says in the pasuk Kesef Nafshot Tereko. And al-Mandaman according to the Mandaman Kumin Lechmei. Dami is actually compared to it, right? So the Gemara Dami it is Rabbi Tavi, like Rabbi Tavi. Okay. Meitvei, we're going to ask the following question. If it's going to be Rosh Chodesh Adar is going to be in the Shabbat that they're doing the parasha, which is close to Shekalim, whether it's going to be before or afterwards, you're going to read it, which means like this. Imagine Parashat Shekalim comes out right before the Shabbat of Kitisa. So it's going to be the Shabbat before, the Shabbat afterwards. You're going to do it double. According to the Mandamar Kitisa, so then it could happen, right? In that time. Because remember, Kitisa, think about it. When is going to be, let's say even this year. This year it's not going to happen because it's a leap year, so you have an extra month. But think about it. Right now we're in Parashat Beshalach. In Beshalach, Yitro Mishpatim, right? Truma Kitisa. So it's going to be, let's say, another month. If it would have happened, so then you would have had Parashat Shekalim. Maybe it would be a week or two, whether it's a week before, it could be a week after. You understand? Usually, so then the question is, but that could happen in Parashat Kitisa. But where's Vayikra? It's in the middle of Vayikra, of the middle of Bamidbar, when you're going to have the Parashat of in Pinchas over there. It'll never come out Purim. Parashat Adar will never come out. Pinchas was always going to be in the summertime. You understand? It's never going to be right now. So for obviously it can be that way. So that's what he says over here. He says it can never come out. Right? So he says, he says, can it actually happen? And says, in yes, to for Eretz Yisrael, they only finish the Torah every 3 years. The Tanakh Kavateh, the Shmuel, Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechal Yom B'Shabbat, according to some of the Yudea Kohen. So says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, says Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechal Yom B'Shabbat. When Rosh Chodesh Adar comes out on Shabbat, Motziin Shalosh Torot. You're going to take out 3 Sifrei Torah. According to Echad Ben Yom Shel Yom, you're going to read 1 Parashat HaShavua, 1 Rosh Chodesh, and 1 in Kitisa. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, says Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, Rosh Chodesh Tevet Shechal Yom B'Shabbat. The same Halacha would apply Rosh Chodesh Tevet, which is Chanukah, which just happened. Right? Again, you're going to have 3 Sifrei Torah. You're going to read in them, Echad Ben Yom Shel Yom, Echad Rosh Chodesh, Echad Chanukah, 1 in Yom Shel Yom, 1 in Rosh Chodesh, and 1 in Chanukah, Utzricha. And we needed both cases. Why? If I was only going to mention it in this one, Rosh Chodesh Tevet, this is when Rabbi Yitzchak said that, but in Rosh Chodesh Adar, maybe also like Rav, that it's going to be the same one as a Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, it's going to be enough with 2 Sifrei Torah. Because if you're going to tell me like Rav, that really the Parashat Shekalim is Saveh B'nei Saveh, which is Rosh Chodesh, then you only need 2 Sifrei Torah. Because it's the same one, right? It's Salem Shos, yeah, it's the exact same one of Rosh Chodesh and Kitisa, right? So Kamashmanan, that's why I had to tell you that you needed both cases. The Lema Havel Ubayachach says, okay, fine, but just mention Rosh Chodesh Adar, and you didn't have to mention Rosh Chodesh Tevet. So he says, one is with another one. So Itman, it was actually stated, Rosh Chodesh Tevet Shechal Yom B'Shabbat Mitzvah Karut Tlata. You're going to read 3, right? 3 people in the Torah of Rosh Chodesh, and one of them is going to read in Chanukah. That means when it comes out Rosh Chodesh, that's what happens. Rosh Chodesh, because we had, if you remember, 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. So the second day, which was Sunday this year, so there was also Rosh Chodesh. So what did you do? You read 3 in the Aliyah of Rosh Chodesh and 1 in Chanukah. 3 in Chanukah, 1 on Rosh Chodesh. Amar Rabbi Mani, says Rabbi Mani, it's much more logical to say that you read 3 on Rosh Chodesh and 1 on Chanukah. Why? How many days of Rosh Chodesh do you have? Minimum of 12. Usually it's 18 minimum, right? Because it's usually half of them are 2 days. But even if you say it's 1 day each, there's 12 days of Rosh Chodesh. How many days do you have of Chanukah? 8. So Tadir v'shenu Tadir, Tadir kodem. Amar Rabbi Yavin, says Rabbi Yavin, Kavated Rav Dimi, Misaber, it's also logical to say like Rav Dimi, Mi garam lerevi shevo, who caused the 4th day to come? It was Rosh Chodesh. Hilkach Ravi'i Rosh Chodesh b'Mikra. So therefore, according to him, you should read the Ravi'i Rosh Chodesh, because the Ravi'i was because of Rosh Chodesh, not because of Chanukah. So he's saying, no, it's more logical like me, because the 4th Aliyah should be Rosh Chodesh, because that's why it's extra. You understand? The 3rd Aliyah, the 3 Aliyot are there anyway because of Chanukah, but the 4th Aliyah is extra. So Ma'avila, so what's the maskana? Yosef says, Rosh Chodesh, we don't pay attention to the Rosh Chodesh, but rather the Chanukah is Zikar. But Rabbah says, no, Chanukah, but rather the Rosh Chodesh is Zikar. The Hilchata Chanukah, Rosh Chodesh Zikar. Rosh Chodesh is Zikar. And that's what we do Halacha L'Maseh until today. Itman, it was also stated, Chaliot, Be'atat Tzaveh, it's going to come out Be'atat Tzaveh, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Karushita Be'atat Tzaveh, you're going to read 6 in Be'atat Tzaveh, right? Until Kitisa. And one of them is Kitisa until Be'asita. Amar Abaya comes and he says, no, they're going to say that you just finished there. And Amar Abaya, but rather Abaya says, no, you read 6 from Be'atat Tzaveh until Be'asita, and one of them you're going to read from Kitisa until Be'asita. Okay, we continue with Hashem tomorrow.